Every night when the world goes quiet and your eyes grow heavy, something extraordinary begins inside your mind. You drift from waking consciousness into a landscape built entirely by your brain, a place where logic bends, time melts, and reality becomes a soft illusion. This world is your dream. Here you can fly without wings, speak to people who are gone, or relive moments that never truly happened. Yet to your sleeping brain, every sound, every image, every feeling feels utterly real. Why does this happen? Why does your brain create such strange, unpredictable, and often beautiful experiences every single night? To answer that, we must travel deep into the biology of sleep, and into the most mysterious function of the human mind. As you begin to fall asleep, your brain slowly disconnects from the outside world. The thalamus, a gateway that normally relays sensory signals, starts to quiet down. The eyes no longer send images, the ears no longer feed sound, and the sense of touch begins to fade. The world outside goes silent, but within, the brain remains alive. Electrical activity doesn't stop. Instead, it changes rhythm, shifting from the fast beta waves of wakefulness to the slower alpha and theta waves of light sleep. And then, something remarkable happens. You enter the stage of REM sleep, rapid eye movement, when dreams become vivid and strange. During REM, your brain behaves almost as if it were awake. The visual cortex lights up, the amygdala, the emotional center, becomes highly active, and the brainstem sends bursts of electrical signals racing upward through the mind. Meanwhile, the muscles of your body are paralyzed. It's a built-in safety system, nature's way of ensuring that you don't physically act out your dreams. Inside your skull, a silent theater awakens. Your brain becomes both the director and the audience, the writer and the actor, weaving entire worlds out of fragments of memory, emotion, and imagination. Scientists believe that dreams are part of how your brain processes experiences. During the day, you absorb endless information, sights, sounds, thoughts, emotions, but not all of it can be stored consciously. So at night, your brain begins to sort through it, replaying scenes, reinforcing important memories, and dissolving others into fragments of imagery. It's as if your mind takes the chaos of the day and transforms it into story, not to entertain you but to make sense of itself. And yet, dreams are not logical narratives. They shift and distort. Places merge, people change faces, and time moves without direction. That's because the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles reasoning and structure, becomes less active during REM sleep. The dream world follows emotional logic, not rational thought. That's why your dreams often feel real, even when they make no sense. The emotional brain takes control, and your mind accepts the impossible with quiet wonder. But why are dreams strange? Why not calm and consistent? Because the strangeness itself may serve a purpose. Some researchers believe that bizarre or surreal dreams help your brain break out of rigid patterns, encouraging creativity and flexibility in thought. Others suggest that dreaming is a form of emotional therapy, where the mind safely revisits stress, fear, or longing in symbolic form. When you dream of falling, of flying, of being chased, your brain might be rehearsing survival, resolving anxiety, or exploring freedom. When you dream of people you miss, it may be your emotional memory reawakening the connections that comfort you. Your dreams are not random. They are messages written in metaphor. Each night, as you sleep, your consciousness loosens its grip on the physical world and slips into a deeper field of imagination, a field guided by both biology and mystery. From a scientific view, dreams arise from neural patterns. But from a human view, they are something more, a mirror held up to the soul, showing you what your waking mind cannot yet understand. And when morning comes, your dreams dissolve like mist, leaving behind only fragments, a whisper, a feeling, a strange image that fades before you can name it. But even then, their work is done. Your brain has repaired, reorganized, and renewed itself. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, remember, you are not simply resting. You are entering one of nature's most intricate laboratories, a place where memory and emotion meet, where creativity awakens, and where the brain, free freed from the body's limits, explores infinity. Dreams may be strange, but they are also sacred. They remind us that even in sleep, the mind never stops creating. In every dream, no matter how strange, your brain is doing what it does best, making meaning, shaping experience, and keeping the story of you alive. The architecture of dreams, how the brain builds other worlds. Every night, when you close your eyes and drift away, your brain becomes a quiet architect of impossible worlds. Inside that fragile space between wakefulness and sleep, a vast theater begins to awaken, built not of wood or stone, but of electric whispers between neurons. This is the architecture of dreams, the hidden engineering of the human mind. Dreams feel limitless. We fly, fall, meet people we've never seen, and visit places that don't exist. But beneath this surreal landscape lies a precise biological design. It begins in the sleep cycle, a rhythmic pattern that repeats every 90 minutes, shaped by millions of years of evolution. During the early stages of sleep, the brain gradually slows. Waves that once surged rapidly during the day now move in long, slow ripples. Your body relaxes, muscles loosen, breathing deepens. This is the descent into the first layers of unconsciousness, the brain's gateway to the dream world. Then, somewhere deep inside your skull, a small region called the pons awakens. It begins sending bursts of electrical signals to the thalamus, the brain's great messenger hub. These pulses ignite the visual cortex at the back of your head, the same area that processes sight while awake. But now, with your eyes closed, the visual cortex paints its own images, pulled from memory, emotion, and imagination. Your brain begins to dream. This stage is called REM sleep, rapid eye movement, where the mind is at its most active while the body lies completely still. If you were to watch someone sleeping, you'd see their eyes darting beneath closed lids, chasing invisible scenes. It's as if the body is locked in stillness, but the mind is free. Inside the REM state, logic softens, and the ordinary boundaries of time and reason dissolve. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that governs planning and rational thought, quiets down. Meanwhile, emotional centers such as the amygdala and hippocampus surge with activity. This is why dreams often feel irrational yet deeply emotional, a strange balance of chaos and meaning. But why does the brain build such elaborate inner worlds every night? Some scientists believe dreams are a form of neural housekeeping. During REM sleep, the brain replays and reorganizes memories, deciding which to store, which to forget, and which to weave into the fabric of your identity. It's like your mind tidying its emotional desk before the next day begins. Other researchers see dreams as virtual simulations, an evolutionary tool that lets us rehearse survival without risk. In our dreams, we confront threats, navigate social challenges, and test possibilities, a kind of mental training ground designed to prepare us for reality. Still others argue that dreams are the brain's natural poetry, where the language of the unconscious finds form. In this view, dreams are not meant to be logical. They are meant to speak in symbols, to process feelings too complex for waking words. Whatever the reason, the structure of dreaming is astonishingly consistent across humans, cultures, and time. Every person, from the youngest child to the oldest sage, experiences the same nightly cycle, a silent journey through NREM and REM, through slow waves and rapid eye storms. As the night deepens, these cycles lengthen. Early dreams are shorter, often fragmented, like broken reflections. But near dawn, REM periods stretch longer, and the stories your mind creates grow more vivid, more emotional, more coherent. This is why the dreams you remember most are usually the ones closest to waking, those final chapters written just before sunrise. The chemicals guiding these transitions are part of the brain's elegant design. Acetylcholine rises sharply during REM, activating neurons that spark imagery and emotion. Meanwhile, serotonin and norepinephrine, which help regulate mood and alertness, fall away. The result is a brain in a state of paradox, wildly active, but disconnected from physical control. It's a safe sandbox for consciousness to play in. Your brainstem ensures your body remains still during these dreams, a phenomenon called REM atonia. It prevents you from acting out the vivid scenes unfolding in your mind. Occasionally, this mechanism misfires, and that's when people experience sleep paralysis, the eerie state where consciousness returns before the body awakens. From an evolutionary perspective, this system is pure genius. It lets mammals process, heal, and imagine, all within the safety of rest. Even animals dream. Dogs twitch, cats move their paws, rats replay maze paths in their sleep. Nature seems to have preserved dreaming as something vital, not a luxury, but a necessity. Without dreams, the mind begins to fray. Experiments show that depriving people of REM sleep leads to mood swings, memory problems, and hallucinations. It's as if dreaming isn't just storytelling, it's psychological repair. Each night, your brain performs quiet maintenance, smoothing the rough edges of thought and emotion. And so, as you sleep, your neurons engage in a vast symphony of creation. Images dance across the stage of the mind, blending logic and madness into something utterly human. The brain, in its solitude, becomes both artist and audience, the creator of worlds and the traveler within them. When you awaken, the memory of these inner adventures begins to dissolve. Dream recall is fragile. Within minutes, most details fade. Scientists believe this is by design. The waking brain prioritizes the external world, not the internal one. Yet sometimes, a dream lingers, a fragment, a face, a strange feeling that follows you through the day. It is a whisper from the deeper layers of your consciousness, a reminder that the world within you is as vast as the universe itself. So tonight, as you drift to sleep again, remember, you are about to enter a realm your brain builds anew each night, a living landscape where memories, feelings, and possibilities converge. The architecture of your dreams awaits, a cathedral of thought and light, rising in the darkness. Perhaps, in some mysterious way, this nightly creation is your mind's way of remembering what it truly is, a spark of awareness within a cosmos of infinite imagination. Why dreams feel realer than reality. Each night, we enter worlds that seem impossibly vivid. We see faces, feel textures, hear voices, all conjured by the quiet theater of the mind. And though we lie motionless, eyes closed, the scenes within us pulse with color and emotion. How can something born entirely inside the brain feel so real? Dreams defy the logic of their creation. They are built in darkness, yet they shine with light. They are silent, yet filled with sound. The world outside disappears, and yet within another world rises. To understand why dreams feel realer than reality, we must look closely at how perception itself is woven. Your waking mind is a prediction machine. Every sight, every sound, every sensation is not a raw input from the world, but a construction your brain constantly updates. Neuroscientists call this the predictive coding model of consciousness. In it, the brain is less like a camera and more like a storyteller, forever guessing what will happen next. Reality, in this sense, is a controlled hallucination, one your senses constantly correct. When you dream, that correction system turns off. There are no external signals from the eyes, the ears, or the skin to challenge what your mind imagines. The brain keeps predicting, but now it's predicting into silence. And because there's nothing to contradict it, your inner world becomes complete. It feels real because, in every neural sense, it is real to the dreaming brain. There is no difference. Brain scans of dreaming subjects show astonishing similarities to wakefulness. During REM sleep, the visual cortex flares alive. The limbic system hums with emotional charge, and even parts of the auditory regions activate. The only difference is the lack of sensory input. In a dream, the orchestra plays without a conductor, and yet somehow the melody still holds. The vividness you feel, the texture of walls, the glimmer of sunlight, the warmth of touch, arises from multisensory synthesis. The brain's sensory regions, though disconnected from the body, still talk to one another, weaving layers of simulated experience. A touch imagined in a dream lights up the same neurons that would respond if you actually reached out your hand. To the nervous system, perception is perception, whether external or internal. This is why flying in a dream feels like flying, why falling feels like falling, and why fear in a nightmare quickens your heartbeat even as you lie still. But what makes some dreams hyper-real, more intense, more detailed, more emotionally charged than waking life? The answer lies in chemistry. During REM sleep, the prefrontal cortex, the region of reason, judgment, and logic, becomes partially inhibited. At the same time, dopamine and acetylcholine surge. These neurochemicals enhance imagery and emotion, deepening immersion while weakening skepticism. It's the same blend the brain uses during moments of awe, creativity, or deep love. You believe the dream because your critical filters are asleep. Some researchers compare REM dreaming to psychedelic states. Under substances like DMT or LSD, the brain's default mode network quiets, allowing previously disconnected regions to communicate freely. Dreams mirror this pattern. The brain relaxes its normal hierarchies and lets imagination flow without limits. The result is an experience that feels boundless, symbolic, and intensely alive. Memory, too, plays its part. Dreams borrow fragments from your past, a face from yesterday, a sound from childhood, a place long forgotten. Your brain blends them into something coherent, even when it makes no logical sense. That blending process creates familiarity, the eerie feeling that you've been here before, even when the place is impossible, and emotion gives it gravity. When you feel fear, joy, or loss in a dream, those emotions are genuine. The amygdala and limbic circuits ignite as powerfully as they do when you're awake. So even if the story makes no sense, the feeling does, and that's what convinces the mind that the dream is real. In these moments, the line between imagination and perception blurs completely. For a few heartbeats, your private universe feels solid, tactile, absolute. And when you wake, it collapses, like a star fatting at dawn. Some philosophers suggest that dreams reveal the illusion of all perception, that waking reality itself may be another layer of controlled dreaming, stabilized by sensory feedback. As Indian philosopher Execute a letter 1E45K once wrote, "The waking state is a long dream, the dream, a short waking." Modern neuroscience doesn't confirm this mystically, but it echoes in physics too. The notion that the world we see is a rendering, not the raw code of reality. When you awaken from a vivid dream, notice the strange transition, the way your mind reassembles your identity, your room, your body. For a few seconds, you exist between worlds, uncertain which one is true. That fragile moment, the shimmering boundary between sleep and waking, may be the most honest reflection of consciousness itself. Dreams, then, are not lies of the brain. They are its truest art form, self-generated realities that remind us how easily our perception can weave a universe. They teach us humility before the mystery of awareness. Each night, as you enter that private cosmos, remember, you are not escaping reality. You are witnessing what reality truly is, a projection of the mind, painting the infinite with its own light. And perhaps that is why dreams feel so real. Because they are made of the same substance as waking life, consciousness itself, shimmering like light through glass. When the dream looks back, lucidity and the aware mind, some nights, something extraordinary happens. In the middle of a dream, amid the chaos of colors, the shifting landscapes, the faces that fade in and out, a quiet awareness stirs. You suddenly realize you are dreaming. The moment is electric. The world around you continues to shimmer and move, yet now you stand within it consciously. You can touch, fly, speak, explore, all with the knowledge that none of it is real. This is lucid dreaming, the bridge between the unconscious and the aware mind. Lucidity is a rare event, but not an accident. It's the product of a delicate balance, a mind asleep yet self-aware. During most dreams, your prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for self-reflection, is quiet, letting the imagination flow unchecked. But sometimes it flickers back online. It whispers to you, "Wait, this isn't real." At that instant, two worlds merge. You remain in the deep theater of REM sleep, yet a spark of waking consciousness lights the stage. It's as if your mind opens its eyes within itself. Scientists studying lucid dreaming have found that the brain behaves like a hybrid half-dreamer, half-observer. In fMRI scans, the visual cortex and motor areas remain active, creating the vivid sensory world. But the prefrontal regions, normally dormant in dreams, reignite. This reactivation gives rise to meta-awareness, the ability to recognize one's own dreaming state. To the lucid dreamer, reality feels sharper. Colors bloom, gravity loosen, sounds gain texture. It's as though the act of awareness injects new energy into the simulation. You become the co-author of your own subconscious story. For centuries, lucid dreaming was treated as mystical or supernatural. Buddhist monks practiced it as part of dream yoga, a discipline to awaken the mind even in sleep. They saw lucidity as training for enlightenment, the ability to remain conscious through all states of existence. In modern science, it is seen not as mysticism, but as a fascinating cognitive phenomenon, the mind reflecting upon itself in real time. But how does one become lucid? Research suggests that lucidity arises from prospective memory, the brain's ability to remember future intentions. Before sleep, some people remind themselves, "Tonight, I will realize I'm dreaming." This simple act plants a seed of awareness that sometimes blooms in the REM state. Others use reality testing, habits like asking throughout the day, "Am I dreaming?" The brain carries these patterns into sleep. Then, when something impossible happens, a clock melting, a door that leads to the sky, the habit triggers recognition. But lucidity is not easy to hold. The moment you become too excited, the dream often collapses. The surge of adrenaline pulls you toward waking. The art lies in balancing awareness with calm, like holding a flame in still air. Those who master this balance can explore the dream world consciously for long stretches. They can change settings, summon people, or simply observe. But perhaps the deepest use of lucidity is not control but curiosity. When lucid dreamers stop trying to command the dream and instead ask questions, "Who am I? What does this mean?" the subconscious responds. The answers often come as symbols, voices, or transformations, reflections of the dreamer's own psyche. It is as if the mind, when made self-aware, begins a dialogue with itself. Psychologists studying lucid dreams note that they often lead to personal insight and emotional healing. In a lucid dream, one can face fears safely, standing before a nightmare, knowing it cannot harm you. Over time, this can reduce anxiety in waking life, as the dream world becomes a rehearsal space for courage. The neuroscience of lucidity continues to unfold. Some experiments show that lucid dreamers can communicate with researchers in real time by moving their eyes in pre-agreed patterns while asleep. This means consciousness is not entirely offline during dreams. It can cross the boundary and respond, proving that awareness in REM is measurable, not imaginary. Philosophically, lucid dreaming challenges our deepest assumptions. If you can awaken inside a dream and realize it's not real, could something similar be true of waking life? Could consciousness itself be capable of recognizing the illusion of perception? Some theorists call this metalucidity, awareness beyond awareness. It's the recognition that all experience, waking or dreaming, arises from the same field of mind. The lucid dream becomes a metaphor for enlightenment, the moment when the observer sees through its own illusion. From a neuroscientific view, lucidity might represent the brain's highest act of integration. The rational and emotional, the conscious and unconscious, the observer and the observed all meet in harmony. It's a brief synthesis of the human experience, to be both the actor and the witness of one's own mind, and perhaps that's why lucid dreams feel so profound. They remind us that awareness is not bound to the physical world. It is a light that can shine even in the deepest dark, self-reflecting, eternal, curious. So tonight, as you close your eyes and drift toward sleep, remember, you are not just falling into unconsciousness. You are entering the vast laboratory of your mind, where perception, memory, and imagination merge. If lucidity finds you, stay calm. Feel the air of that imagined world, touch the surfaces, breathe the dream. You are witnessing consciousness dreaming of itself, and perhaps, when the dream looks back at you, it is not looking from another world, but from the deepest part of who you truly are. As the night deepens and your body drifts further into stillness, the brain begins its most mysterious work, the quiet composing of emotion. Somewhere beneath the conscious mind, in the unseen circuits of memory and feeling, a vast orchestra begins to play. Each neuron hums with electricity. Each chemical messenger flows like a note in a silent symphony. Together they create the music of dreams. When you dream, your brain is not simply telling stories. It is expressing emotion. The landscapes, faces, and symbols that appear are instruments in an emotional score, one designed to balance, release, and harmonize the feelings that daily life leaves unresolved. If waking life is reason, dreaming is rhythm. At the center of this orchestra is a small almond-shaped region deep in your brain, the amygdala. During REM sleep, the amygdala becomes intensely active. It conducts the emotional tone of the dream, turning fear into storms, joy into light, longing into endless corridors. But unlike waking life, you are safe here. You can experience intense emotion without consequence. The hippocampus, which records and organizes memory, plays its part too. It strings fragments of your day into melodies, a word you heard, a thought you ignored, a face you saw in passing. These fragments become the notes of your dream. And as they merge with emotional impulses from the amygdala, stories begin to form. Scientists believe that this nightly concert helps you process emotion, the brain's way of cooling the heat of experience. Anger softens, fear transforms, sorrow finds expression. In this way, dreams act as an emotional detox, not by erasing feelings, but by integrating them. What cannot be spoken in daylight can be sung in the language of the dream. Consider the nightmare. At first it seems cruel, a burst of terror in the safety of sleep. But a nightmare may be the psyche's attempt at rehearsal. By confronting fear in a symbolic world, the brain reduces its grip in waking life. When you wake, the threat feels smaller, the heart steadier. Dreams don't just release emotion, they reorganize it. Neuroscientists call this emotional memory consolidation. During REM, the brain replays emotionally charged events, stripping them of excessive stress while preserving their meaning. It's as if your mind is saying, keep the lesson, let go of the pain. This is why, after a difficult day, a good night's sleep can bring clarity. You wake with a sense of calm, as though something inside has been quietly resolved. The orchestra has played through the night, and the music has faded into peace. The anterior cingulate cortex, another key player, monitors conflicts between emotion and thought. During dreaming, it acts as a gentle mediator, weaving logic into the waves of feeling, turning chaos into coherence. The result is the strange but structured poetry of dreams, part reason, part passion, all woven into one flow. There's also the default mode network, the brain's introspective engine. When awake, it gives rise to self-reflection, imagination, and daydreams. During REM sleep, it fuses with emotional centers, creating an inward simulation of your inner life. The dream becomes a mirror, not of events, but of the feelings beneath them. And this is why your dreams often seem personal, even when their stories make no sense. They speak in emotional geometry, abstract shapes of meaning that your waking mind can only partially decode. A stranger's face may stand for a forgotten memory. A house may represent your sense of self. A storm, your hidden anxiety. Each element is an instrument, playing its part in the subconscious score. Even recurring dreams, the ones that echo across years, are movements in this inner symphony. They often revisit emotions that remain unresolved. The repetition isn't a glitch. It's rehearsal, your brain practicing emotional mastery until it feels complete. But dreams also create. They don't merely replay the past, they compose new harmonies from it. Studies show that REM sleep enhances creativity, helping artists, scientists, and thinkers find unexpected connections. This happens because emotional regions of the brain communicate freely with imagination centers, like musicians improvising together. In this creative space, emotion becomes insight. You might wake from a dream with a sudden understanding, not just of a problem but of yourself. Because when emotion speaks through imagery, the subconscious reveals its logic, a logic older than language. In a sense, the dream state is where biology meets art. Your neurons, hormones, and memories form a canvas, and your mind paints upon it with feeling. Each color is a neurotransmitter, each stroke an impulse. What results is the art of emotion, a nightly masterpiece that exists only for you, and yet we rarely remember it. Most dreams dissolve like mist in sunlight. But that doesn't mean they're lost. Their emotional effects remain, subtly altering mood, perception, and even behavior. Dreams, though forgotten, tune the instrument of the mind. When you awaken calm after chaos, inspired after despair, or at peace after confusion, that is the echo of your subconscious orchestra finishing its song. Every night, without your awareness, your brain becomes a composer, blending chemistry and memory into a music that only the soul can hear. And in that music, emotion finds balance, meaning finds form. And you, the dreamer, are restored. Because in the end, dreaming is not an escape from emotion. It is emotion, given shape and sound, until the mind can rest again in harmony. The science of nightmares, shadows of the sleeping mind. As you lie still beneath the quiet weight of night, your body rests, but your mind drifts into a world both familiar and strange, the landscape of dreams. Most nights that world is gentle, a soft current of memories and imagination. But sometimes that current darkens. Shapes twist, fear blooms, and you find yourself running, falling, or frozen in silence. These are the moments when the sleeping brain turns its gaze toward shadow, when the mind becomes both the storyteller and the storm. This is the realm of nightmares. For centuries, nightmares were believed to be messages from spirits or omens from the gods. Ancient cultures saw them as warnings or punishments, visions meant to guide or protect. But today, neuroscience paints a different and perhaps even more profound picture. Nightmares are not curses. They are communications. They are the brain's way of processing distress, confronting fear, and restoring emotional balance. Let's begin with the science. Nightmares most often occur during REM sleep, that same stage where vivid dreams take place. In REM, the brain is highly active. The amygdala, which governs emotion and especially fear, lights up like a signal flare. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for logic, reasoning, and self-control, quiets down. This imbalance creates the perfect environment for intense, emotional narrative scenes where fear reigns unchecked. Your heart races, your breath quickens, yet your body doesn't move. This paralysis, known as REM atonia, prevents you from physically acting out your dreams. But inside your head, the storm feels real. Every shadow, every chase, every fall. The mind, in its immersive brilliance, can simulate terror so vividly that you awaken with your pulse pounding and your sheets tangled. But why would evolution design something so unpleasant? Scientists believe nightmares serve a crucial adaptive purpose. They are rehearsals. The threat simulation theory, proposed by cognitive neuroscientist Antti Raivansuo, suggests that nightmares evolved as a way for the brain to simulate danger in a safe environment. In dreams, you practice facing threats, refining your emotional and physiological responses without real-world risk. It's an ancient form of training, a built-in rehearsal for survival. Think of it this way. When your ancestors dreamt of predators in the dark, their brains were not torturing them, they were preparing them. The neural circuits that ignite during nightmares are the same ones used in real fight-or-flight situations. The amygdala, the hippocampus, and the brainstem work together to encode fear memories, helping you recognize danger faster when awake. Modern research supports this view. Studies show that people who experience frequent nightmares often have heightened sensitivity to stress and emotion. Their brains are finely tuned to detect and respond to potential threats. In a sense, nightmares are a psychological alarm system, built to test your defenses and strengthen emotional resilience. However, the story of nightmares is not only biological, it is deeply psychological. The themes that appear: falling, being chased, losing control, facing an unseen presence, often mirror unresolved conflicts or buried anxieties. Nightmares transform invisible worries into visible symbols, much like ordinary dreams do, but with amplified emotion. They magnify what the waking mind tries to suppress. For example, a dream of being trapped may reflect feelings of helplessness or confinement in real life. A nightmare of drowning might symbolize emotional overwhelm. Losing your voice could represent powerlessness, the inability to speak your truth. In this way, nightmares serve as emotional mirrors, forcing you to confront what your conscious self avoids. Interestingly, research from Harvard psychologist Deirdre Barrett suggests that nightmares can actually help heal trauma. Her studies on post-traumatic stress disorder revealed that survivors who dreamt about their trauma, even painfully, often showed signs of emotional recovery. The dreaming brain, through repetition and reimagining, may be attempting to process and integrate overwhelming memories, making them less distressing over time. Yet, there are times when the brain's process becomes too intense. When nightmares repeat, when they invade sleep nightly, they can evolve into nightmare disorder, a condition where the brain's attempt to heal turns into a cycle of distress. Chronic nightmares often occur in people with anxiety, depression, or trauma-related conditions. They disrupt rest, increase stress, and can even alter brain chemistry. But the same neuroplasticity that creates nightmares can also soothe them. One of the most effective therapies is called image rehearsal therapy, IRT. In this method, a person visualizes their recurring nightmare while awake, then rewrites its ending. By repeatedly imagining a positive resolution, the brain gradually reshapes the emotional imprint of the dream. Over time, the nightmare loses its grip, transforming from terror into something neutral or even empowering. This teaches us something profound. The dreaming brain is malleable. It learns, it adapts, and it listens. Even in sleep, you can influence the architecture of your imagination. Let's take a step deeper into the physiological side. When a nightmare unfolds, the sympathetic nervous system, the body's stress response, surges. Adrenaline is released, heart rate increases, and breathing accelerates. Yet because the body is paralyzed in REM, the energy has nowhere to go. You wake in a jolt, the adrenaline still surging. This abrupt awakening is why nightmares often feel so vivid, their emotional residue lingering long into morning. Curiously, temperature, medication, and even diet can influence the frequency of nightmares. Warmer sleep environments, for instance, can raise REM intensity, making dreams more vivid and emotional. Certain medications, like antidepressants or beta blockers, affect neurotransmitters involved in REM regulation. Even late-night snacks can increase metabolism and brain activity, sometimes leading to strange, intense dreams. But the most consistent trigger of nightmares remains stress. When you carry emotional tension into sleep, your brain continues to process it, not through language or logic, but through imagery. The more unresolved the stress, the darker the imagery may become. This is the mind's way of insisting that something within you needs attention. And yet, nightmares are not the enemy. They are the mind's raw voice, a cry for understanding. The more we listen, the less power they hold. Many people who practice mindfulness or journaling about their dreams find that even their most frightening nightmares begin to soften, shifting from chaos to clarity. Awareness transforms fear into insight. You might wonder what happens in the moment just before waking from a nightmare. Neuroimaging shows that as the dream's intensity peaks, the prefrontal cortex flickers awake. Rational awareness returns, and in that moment you become conscious enough to realize this isn't real. That flicker of awareness, known as lucidity, sometimes allows dreamers to change the story. They turn and face the monster. They fly away. They take control. Lucid dreaming research suggests that training this awareness can help transform nightmares into learning experiences. By recognizing the dream state, you can intervene, breathe, observe, and alter the narrative. In doing so, you not only reclaim your sleep, but also reshape your relationship with fear itself. As we near the end of this hour, let's reflect on what nightmares truly are: not punishments, but profound acts of the brain's emotional intelligence. They are proof that even in darkness, the mind seeks balance. They are the shadow side of healing, where the psyche works tirelessly to bring hidden pain into the light of consciousness. When next you wake from a nightmare, heart racing, remember, your brain has not betrayed you. It has shown you a story it needed to tell, one woven from memory, emotion, and the deep need for resolution. In facing those shadows, you allow your mind to integrate its fears and emerge stronger, calmer, and more whole. Nightmares are the nighttime echoes of the human experience, fragments of fear transformed into opportunities for growth. So breathe deeply. Let the shadows settle. The mind, even in its darkest dreams, is only ever trying to bring you back to balance. Healing through dreams, how sleep repairs the emotional brain. Night falls. The body grows still. The lights fade and you drift into the gentle rhythm of breath and pulse. But within your brain, a quiet miracle begins, a nightly therapy session, invisible yet vital. Every memory, every worry, every burst of joy or grief from your waking life now finds its way into the deep machinery of sleep. Your brain, bathed in darkness, begins its repair. This hour, we explore one of the most profound truths of human existence. Dreams are not random. They are the brain's way of healing, restoring emotional balance, processing pain, and weaving the fragments of your life into meaning. When you close your eyes and enter sleep, your brain doesn't switch off, it shifts modes. The waking mind gives way to the restorative mind. In this mode, neurons replay experiences, sort through memories, and regulate emotion. Scientists call this emotional homeostasis, the balancing act through which your inner world is restored. At the heart of this process lies REM sleep, the stage where dreams bloom in full color. During REM, your brain becomes as active as when you are awake. But there's one crucial difference. The production of the stress chemical norepinephrine, which fuels fear and anxiety, drops dramatically. The dreaming brain, in effect, creates a safe environment where emotional memories can be revisited without stress. This is what neuroscientist Matthew Walker calls overnight therapy. In his research, Walker found that REM sleep allows you to re-experience emotional events, but in a chemically calm state. The brain replays difficult memories, arguments, heartbreaks, losses, but softens their emotional charge. Each time a memory is revisited in sleep, its emotional intensity fades slightly, allowing you to wake with a clearer, calmer mind. In other words, dreaming is emotional first aid. Think back to times when you've gone to bed upset and woken feeling lighter, as though something in the night untied a knot inside you. That wasn't your imagination. It was your brain doing what it has evolved to do: feel, sort, and heal. The brain regions responsible for emotion, especially the amygdala and the anterior cingulate cortex, are highly active during REM. The amygdala identifies emotional significance, while the cingulate cortex helps regulate it. During dreaming, these regions communicate freely with the hippocampus, the memory center. The result: memories are reorganized, stripped of their raw emotional sting, and stored more peacefully. Imagine your day's experiences as emotional data, raw, unfiltered, full of noise. Sleep is the editing room where that data is reviewed and refined. Dreams are the editor's notes, adding context and story, removing excess pain, shaping meaning from chaos. But this process doesn't only occur in REM. Earlier stages of sleep, such as deep slow-wave sleep, also play a role. During slow-wave sleep, the brain replays recent experiences in bursts of synchronized activity called sleep spindles. These patterns strengthen neural connections, solidifying learning and memory. Then in REM, the emotional tone is added or softened. The two stages work together. Deep sleep stores the facts, while REM sleep heals the feelings attached to them. It's a delicate dance between memory and emotion, a biological rhythm that allows you to carry the lessons of yesterday without being weighed down by its pain. Let's look at one example: grief. When you lose someone, your waking mind is flooded with pain and longing. But over time, dreams begin to change that pain. Early on, you might dream of the loss directly, raw, painful, vivid, but weeks later, the dreams shift. You see the person again, not in suffering, but in peace. The imagery softens. The emotional edges blur. This is the brain healing itself, not forgetting, but integrating. Even trauma, one of the mind's deepest wounds, can be reshaped through dreams. Researchers have found that trauma survivors who experience replay dreams in which fragments of the trauma appear repeatedly may be the brain's attempt to reprocess those memories in smaller, safer doses. Each replay is a step toward desensitization, but there's a crucial caveat. When REM sleep is disrupted by stress, insomnia, or medication, that healing process stalls. The amygdala remains overactive, emotional regulation weakens, and trauma lingers unresolved. In this way, sleep is not just rest, it is therapy. Without it, emotional wounds remain open. It's no wonder that chronic sleep deprivation is linked to anxiety, depression, and irritability. When the nightly repair cycle is interrupted, emotional balance erodes. The world begins to feel heavier, sharper, and less manageable. Your reactions become stronger, your patience shorter, your clarity dimmer. And so sleep, especially dream-filled sleep, becomes essential not just for the body but for the mind's peace. Let's turn inward now to the deeper mystery. How does the dreaming brain transform emotion into imagery? Consider a nightmare after a stressful day. Perhaps you're being chased or trapped or lost. These are metaphors for your emotional state. Your brain uses symbolic language to represent what cannot be easily expressed. Over time, these dream metaphors evolve. A chasing figure may become a conversation. A dark room may open to light. Each transformation marks progress in emotional integration. Dreaming, then, is not passive. It's creative, dynamic, and purposeful. The brain constructs stories that help you make sense of yourself. It's as though the subconscious mind uses the medium of dreams to translate emotion into understanding. Even ordinary dreams, the ones you forget upon waking, leave traces of this healing. They may not tell a clear story, but they perform the work silently, adjusting your emotional temperature, maintaining equilibrium. Neuroscientific studies using brain imaging confirm that after REM-rich sleep, people show reduced emotional reactivity. Their amygdala responses to negative stimuli are calmer. They are, quite literally, less afraid. This finding supports a simple but profound idea. Sleep cleans the emotional lens through which we see life. Let's explore one more beautiful aspect of this process: empathy. During REM sleep, brain regions associated with social understanding, like the medial prefrontal cortex, are active. Dreaming allows you to simulate other perspectives, to imagine conversations, to feel the emotions of others. In this sense, dreaming expands your emotional intelligence. Each night, you rehearse compassion, curiosity, and connection. It's why, after a good night's sleep, people often feel more emotionally stable and kinder. Rest doesn't just repair the self, it reconnects the self to others. As you drift through dreams, the mind acts as both healer and storyteller. It weaves your life into coherence. It reminds you of who you are and what you've survived. Every strange image, every fleeting emotion, is part of a grand neural choreography aimed at one purpose: to restore your inner harmony. So, the next time you awaken from a vivid dream, joyful or sorrowful, pause for a moment before dismissing it. Consider that your brain has just performed its most ancient act of self-care. It has worked through your pain, edited your emotions, and helped you prepare to face another day with a steadier heart. Dreams are nature's therapy, silent, subtle, and sacred. Your brain, in its infinite complexity, understands something your waking self often forgets. To heal, you must feel. To move forward, you must first drift inward. Lucid dreams, when awareness awakens within sleep. There comes a rare and fascinating moment in sleep when the dreamer suddenly realizes they are dreaming. The world around them, the sky, the faces, the colors, the sensations, all shimmer with an otherworldly clarity. Yet they remain asleep, suspended between worlds, aware but unbound. This is the phenomenon known as lucid dreaming, one of the most mysterious intersections between consciousness and the sleeping mind. Tonight, in this quiet hour, we'll journey into the science and wonder of lucid dreams, where awareness awakens inside the dream world, and the mind begins to explore its own creation. Lucid dreaming is not a new discovery. Ancient Buddhist texts from thousands of years ago describe dream yoga, the practice of remaining conscious while asleep to explore deeper layers of reality. The philosopher Aristotle once wrote that sometimes, while dreaming, a small perception arises, telling us that what appears is but a dream. Even in ancient times, humans understood on some intuitive level that consciousness could awaken inside its own illusion. But modern science began exploring lucid dreams in earnest only recently. In 1975, a British psychologist named Keith Hearn recorded the first physiological proof of lucidity. He asked a lucid dreamer to move their eyes in a specific pattern while dreaming left to right, twice, a signal that could be detected by an electroencephalograph. The data showed unmistakably that the dreamer's eyes moved in that pattern while still asleep. Years later, neuroscientist Stephen LaBerge at Stanford University expanded this work, confirming that lucid dreamers could communicate with researchers from within dreams. For the first time, science had concrete evidence that consciousness could exist inside REM sleep. So, what exactly happens in the brain during a lucid dream? In ordinary REM sleep, the prefrontal cortex, the seat of rational thought and self-awareness, is largely inactive. This is why most dreams feel real while they're happening. The logic circuits are offline. The mind accepts the impossible without question. But in lucid dreams, something remarkable occurs. The prefrontal cortex flickers back to life. Self-awareness returns. The dreamer regains the ability to reason, to reflect, and sometimes to control. Brain scans show that lucid dreamers experience hybrid activity, part REM sleep, part waking consciousness. It's a state of conscious dreaming, where the boundaries between the two worlds dissolve. In that moment, the dreamer becomes both the observer and the creator. Imagine standing in a dream and realizing, this is not real, and yet I am here. The fear of falling, the rush of flight, the shifting landscapes, all become yours to explore. For some, this realization sparks deep curiosity. For others, awe. A lucid dream can feel more vivid than waking life. Colors brighter, sounds deeper, emotions amplified. The mind, freed from physical limits, paints reality directly from thought. But lucidity is not only about control, it's about awareness. Many who practice lucid dreaming find it becomes a tool for understanding the self, a window into the subconscious mind. Inside the lucid dream, one can confront fears, revisit memories, or simply observe the dreams unfolding without resistance. Psychologists have begun exploring lucid dreams as a therapeutic practice. For people suffering from recurring nightmares, lucidity can be liberating. When a dreamer realizes they are dreaming, they can face the threat instead of fleeing from it. The monster loses power. The fear transforms into curiosity. This awareness reshapes the emotional brain, reducing the frequency and intensity of nightmares over time. Neuroscientific studies suggest that lucid dreaming enhances emotional regulation and cognitive flexibility. The ability to become aware within a dream reflects a strong connection between conscious and subconscious processes, a sign of a well-integrated mind. In a sense, lucid dreaming is a mental mirror. It shows you how self-awareness behaves in its purest, most unfiltered form. So how does one experience lucidity? It begins with intention and observation. Before sleep, many lucid dreamers practice a simple reflection. I will recognize that I am dreaming. This primes the mind for awareness. During the day, they perform reality checks, small acts like glancing at their hands or reading text twice. In dreams, these details often distort or shift, revealing the illusion. Another method involves wake-induced lucid dreaming, drifting into sleep while maintaining a thread of consciousness. This technique requires deep relaxation and gentle focus, allowing the body to fall asleep while the mind remains aware. When done correctly, the dream world forms around you, and you step directly into lucidity. It's important to note that lucid dreaming isn't always about control or fantasy. Many experienced dreamers speak of it as a spiritual or contemplative practice. In a lucid dream, they choose not to change anything, but simply observe. They study the textures of thought, the way emotion shapes space, the way memory and imagination blend seamlessly. It becomes a meditation within sleep, an exploration of consciousness itself. Some even report profound insights of feelings of unity, timelessness, or connection with something vast and luminous. Neuroscience can explain part of this. During lucidity, activity increases in regions associated with self-reflection and sensory integration, creating a heightened sense of clarity and presence. But there remains something ineffable, an experience beyond words, where awareness touches the edges of its own mystery. Interestingly, the emotional tone of lucid dreams tends to be overwhelmingly positive. Studies show that lucid dreamers often awaken feeling uplifted, creative, and inspired. The act of recognizing illusion within sleep seems to carry into waking life, increasing mindfulness, reducing anxiety, and deepening curiosity about reality itself. In fact, lucid dreaming may reveal something profound about consciousness. That awareness is not bound to the physical world. It can exist in pure form, untethered from sensory input, capable of observing an entirely mental reality. This challenges our ordinary assumptions about what it means to be awake. Perhaps that is why lucid dreams have fascinated philosophers and mystics alike. They blur the line between waking and dreaming, suggesting that reality itself may be, in some way, dreamlike, constructed by perception, shaped by attention. As the physicist David Bohm once said, thought creates the world and then says, I didn't do it. Lucid dreaming reminds us that creation and awareness are one and the same. But even beyond philosophy, lucidity offers practical gifts. It trains the mind to notice, to be present, to question assumptions, to recognize when it's lost in illusion. These are the same skills cultivated in mindfulness and meditation, both proven to enhance emotional well-being and cognitive health. As we drift toward the end of this hour, imagine yourself within your next dream. You're walking through a familiar street. The air hums softly. You glance at your hands and something feels off. The lines blur, the scene shimmers, and suddenly you know, I am dreaming. A quiet thrill fills your chest. The world glows with strange beauty. Every sound, every light, every motion seems alive with meaning. You take a breath, or what feels like one, and realize that in this space, your mind is the sky and every star is a thought. You are both the dream and the dreamer, and when you wake, that awareness doesn't vanish. It lingers, whispering a gentle truth, that reality too might be more fluid, more interconnected, more mysterious than it seems. Lucid dreaming is not an escape from reality. It is an exploration of consciousness, a reminder that awareness can illuminate even the deepest layers of sleep. Why we forget our dreams, the science of vanishing memories each morning, the same quiet mystery unfolds. You awaken with a faint sense that something extraordinary has just happened, a story, a world, a feeling, but it slips away before you can touch it. Fragments linger for a second, maybe two. A voice, a place, a color. Then it's gone. Why is it that the very experiences that feel so vivid while dreaming dissolve so quickly in the light of waking? Why do our dreams, full of movement, emotion, and sensation, vanish almost the moment we open our eyes? This is the question that has fascinated neuroscientists, psychologists, and philosophers alike. The science of vanishing memories, the reason the dream world fades into oblivion. To understand this, we must first look at what happens in the brain while we sleep. When we dream, especially during REM sleep, the brain becomes incredibly active, almost as active as it is when we're awake. The visual cortex fires rapidly, painting scenes in the darkness. The amygdala, our emotional center, lights up, giving dreams their intensity and mood. The hippocampus, the region responsible for memory formation, also stirs, but here lies the paradox. While it participates, it doesn't function quite as it does when we're awake. You see, the hippocampus acts like a bridge, transferring short-term memories into long-term storage. But during REM sleep, the chemical environment of the brain shifts dramatically. The neurotransmitter norepinephrine, crucial for memory consolidation, drops to nearly zero. This neurochemical silence means that, although we experience dreams vividly, the brain's ability to record them in durable memory is almost switched off. It's as if you've lived through a movie but forgotten to hit save. That's the first layer of the mystery, a biochemical one. But there's more. During dreaming, our brain operates in a very different neural rhythm. Electrical patterns called theta waves dominate, slower, more fluid, perfect for creativity but not for precision recall. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for logic and narrative structure, is mostly inactive. Without it, we can't label, organize, or encode experiences as coherent memories. That's why dreams feel so real yet so illogical, and why they're almost impossible to retrieve once we re-enter the waking world. The instant we wake up, brain chemistry shifts again. Cortisol levels rise, alertness increases, and norepinephrine floods back in. The fragile dream imagery, still unanchored, is swept away in the chemical tide. Unless we consciously focus on the dream in those first few moments, replaying it, writing it down, or speaking it aloud, it disappears. Dreams live in the delicate boundary between consciousness and oblivion. They are formed in the subconscious but must cross into conscious awareness to survive, and that passage is narrow, unstable, and fleeting. But there's another layer to this mystery, a psychological one. We may forget dreams not only because of biology, but because of purpose. The brain might intentionally let them go. Dreaming serves as an emotional regulation system, processing fragments of memory, emotion, and thought from the day. Once those emotions are rebalanced, the actual story, the dream's plot, may be unnecessary. The mind keeps the feeling, not the form. It's as though the brain uses dreams like a mental washing cycle. It spins the day's residue, cleans it, and then discards the water. The cleansing remains, but the details vanish. Some researchers suggest forgetting dreams might even be protective. Dreams, especially the intense or surreal ones, can blur the line between imagination and reality. If we remembered all of them in detail, our waking consciousness might become cluttered, overwhelmed by symbolic, emotionally charged fragments that serve no functional purpose. For clarity of mind, the brain forgets. Still, there are ways to catch the disappearing dream, to hold it a little longer. The most effective method is immediate recall. The moment you wake up, before moving or opening your eyes, try to stay still and ask yourself, what was I just experiencing? Even a single word, a color, or a sound can act as an anchor. Write it down, speak it softly. The act of transferring a dream into language forces the prefrontal cortex to reactivate, to give structure to what was once formless. Keeping a dream journal trains the mind to bridge the gap between dreaming and waking consciousness. Over time, this practice strengthens memory pathways associated with dream recall, allowing you to remember more, and more vividly. Interestingly, those who regularly meditate or practice mindfulness often recall dreams with greater clarity. The reason is simple. Mindfulness strengthens the brain's ability to remain aware even in subtle states. That awareness can extend into sleep, keeping a small thread of consciousness alive during REM, enough to retain a trace of the dream before it fades. And yet, perhaps forgetting is not a flaw at all. Maybe it's part of the elegance of the dreaming mind. In the same way a wave crashes and disappears, leaving only ripples, dreams may not be meant to stay. They may serve their purpose to balance emotion, test imagination, process memory, and then dissolve, allowing the mind to awaken renewed, unburdened, ready to begin again. Some neuroscientists even describe dreaming as overnight therapy without a therapist. You experience emotional simulations, conflicts, and releases. You feel them completely, and then you wake up cleansed, lighter, with no need to remember the details. The healing happened beneath awareness. Still, every once in a while, a dream refuses to vanish. A symbol, a voice, a moment so vivid, so luminous that it survives the transition. These dreams often carry meaning. They are the ones that imprint deep enough to rise into consciousness because they touch something important, something we need to remember. Maybe that's the balance. Most dreams fade because they've done their job. But the ones that remain are messages, reminders from the subconscious, urging us to listen. So when you wake tomorrow and the images begin to slip away, don't rush to chase them. Just breathe. Let the fragments dissolve. Know that your brain, in its quiet wisdom, has already woven what you needed into your being. The details may fade, but the effects remain. You may not remember your dream, but your mind does. It carries its lessons in silence, shaping your emotions, your creativity, your calm, invisibly, beautifully. Because forgetting isn't loss. It's transformation. Dreams do not disappear. They simply become part of you. The language of symbols, how the subconscious speaks in images. When the eyes close and the conscious mind falls silent, another language begins to speak. It does not use words, logic, or reason. It speaks in pictures, in feelings, in symbols that drift like clouds across the dark sky of the mind. This is the language of the subconscious, the language of dreams. Throughout human history, people have sought to understand the strange messages that come to them in the night. A river that turns to glass, a stairway that never ends, a lost voice calling your name. To the waking mind, these seem random, fragmented, even absurd. But to the subconscious, each image carries meaning, not literal but emotional. Dreams communicate in metaphor. When your mind dreams of falling, it may not be about gravity at all, but about losing control, about surrender, about fear of uncertainty. When you fly, it may not be about wings, but about freedom, release, the feeling of rising above limits. When you find yourself trapped or chased, your subconscious might be expressing pressure, anxiety, or something unresolved. The brain is not simply showing you stories. It's translating emotional energy into imagery your conscious mind can process. Every dream is a painting drawn by emotion, using memory as pigment. In the waking world, our thoughts are linear, subject, verb, object. But in dreams, the mind returns to its ancient form, symbolic, nonlinear, intuitive. It's as though consciousness reverts to an older language, one closer to art than to speech. Neuroscientists believe that during REM sleep, when most vivid dreams occur, the visual cortex becomes hyperactive. It stitches together fragments from memory and imagination. The amygdala adds emotional tone, and the hippocampus mixes real experiences with symbolic invention. The result is a kind of mental collage, one that reveals how you feel more than what you think. Sigmund Freud called dreams the royal road to the unconscious. Carl Jung went further. He believed dreams were the psyche's way of balancing itself, a dialogue between the conscious and the unconscious. Jung saw recurring dream images, the sea, the snake, the mountain, the shadow, as archetypes, universal symbols shared across cultures and time. To Jung, the subconscious mind was not isolated within one brain. It was connected to a deeper, collective unconscious, a vast ocean of shared human experience. In this view, when you dream, you're not only exploring your own mind, you're touching something timeless, something woven through every human who has ever lived. That's why dream symbols often feel familiar, even when you've never seen them before. The vast ocean, the endless hallway, the falling star, they belong to the shared language of the soul. Science approaches it differently, yet arrives at a strangely similar insight. In cognitive neuroscience, dreams are the brain's way of integrating emotional memory. The symbols arise because the subconscious doesn't use logic, it uses association. A storm might represent turmoil. A bridge might represent transition. A locked door, something you cannot yet face. Your mind chooses these images not randomly, but because they match the emotional frequency of your experience. Dream symbols are the mind's poetry. They compress meaning into image, emotion into story. For example, imagine dreaming of a child lost in a crowd. It might not be about a literal child, but a forgotten part of yourself, innocence, creativity, or hope, lost amid the noise of everyday life. Or dreaming of a broken clock might speak not of time itself, but of your perception of it, the fear of running out, the desire to pause, the awareness that life is fleeting. When we learn to interpret this language, we begin to see that our dreams are not chaos, they are messages in metaphor. But here's the beauty. The subconscious doesn't just speak to us. It speaks with us. Dreams are a dialogue. Each night the mind whispers, "This is what you've hidden. This is what you need to heal." In modern dream research, psychologists use techniques like dream journaling and symbol mapping to decode personal meaning. They ask, what emotions did you feel in the dream? What details stood out, the color, the sound, the texture? What in your waking life mirrors those emotions? Because symbols adapt to each person's life, the meaning is never universal. A snake might mean danger to one person and transformation to another. A storm might mean fear to one, renewal to another. The key is not the symbol itself, but your relationship to it. Your subconscious uses the vocabulary of your own experiences. The dream of a house, for example, often represents the self, but which room you wander through matters. The basement might symbolize the unconscious. The attic, higher thought or memory. The broken window, vulnerability. Each detail matters, because each one is drawn from your unique inner architecture. In recent years, neuroscientists have found that dreams may serve as an emotional language for memory integration. The brain encodes experiences not just as facts, but as emotions. Dreams provide the stage where those emotions can play out, reorganize, and settle into the larger story of who we are. When this symbolic language flows properly, we wake feeling lighter, balanced, even inspired. But when it's disrupted, when we ignore what the subconscious is saying, we may feel anxious, restless, or haunted by recurring images. The mind repeats what the heart refuses to hear. That is why recording dreams, even in fragments, can be profoundly healing. By giving form to symbols, we honor the voice beneath thought. And as we interpret them gently, not with analysis but with curiosity, we allow the subconscious to unfold, revealing its wisdom layer by layer. Consider this. Perhaps the subconscious doesn't just use symbols. Perhaps it is symbolic in nature, a living field of meaning, translating energy into form. Dreams, then, are not puzzles to be solved, but conversations, bridges between the infinite and the intimate, the unseen and the seen. So tonight, when you drift into sleep, imagine your mind as a vast canvas. Each image that arises, a tree, A road, a stranger, is a brushstroke of emotion, a whisper from the deeper self. You don't have to understand every shape or color. You only need to feel it, to listen with the quiet of your heart, because dreams are not nonsense. They are the mind's hidden art, abstract, mysterious, but full of meaning. And when you awaken, you may forget the story, but something remains, a shift, a resonance, a new clarity. The subconscious has spoken, and somewhere within you have heard, for in the language of dreams nothing is ever lost. It only transforms. The mind paints, the soul reads, and consciousness continues its eternal conversation with itself, through light, through symbol, through sleep. Dreams and the collective mind, how consciousness connects us in sleep. When night falls and the world grows still, billions of human minds close their eyes at once. Each person in their own quiet corner of the world drifts into sleep, unaware that their consciousness is about to dissolve into the same unseen sea. In that shared darkness, we dream. And though our dreams seem personal, shaped by memory, emotion, and imagination, there's something deeply mysterious beneath the surface. A sense that perhaps, in some subtle way, we are dreaming together. This idea that consciousness is not isolated but interconnected has been whispered through philosophy, mysticism, and even quantum theory for centuries. It suggests that when you dream, your mind is not locked within your skull, but floating within a vast field, a collective mind, where thoughts, archetypes, and emotions overlap like waves on a single ocean. Science, of course, approaches this with caution. Neuroscience describes the brain as a network of electrochemical processes, firing neurons, memory circuits, chemical rhythms. But even the most advanced models admit, consciousness itself, the experience of awareness, is still a mystery. We can observe brain activity, but we cannot yet locate the source of the dreamer who dreams. Some physicists and philosophers have begun to suggest that consciousness may not arise from the brain alone. Instead, the brain may act more like a receiver, tuning into a broader field of awareness, what some call the quantum consciousness field. In this view, dreaming might be a kind of tuning, the mind dipping below the surface of individuality and into a shared mental ocean. Carl Jung called this the collective unconscious, a realm beneath personal memory that contains the shared imagery, instincts, and symbols of all humanity. When people across cultures dream of similar things, flying, falling, storms, light, Jung saw this not as coincidence, but as evidence of our common psychic roots. The same archetypes appear again and again, not because we copy them, but because they are built into the structure of human consciousness itself. In the 20th century, researchers began to notice strange correlations. Cases where people who had never met shared the same dream imagery on the same night, or dreamt of future events with startling accuracy. Though such phenomena are rare and not fully understood, they hint at the possibility that our minds may be more connected than we think. From a scientific perspective, this can be partially explained by the brain's extraordinary capacity for pattern synchronization. Human beings are social creatures. Our neural rhythms synchronize naturally, our breathing, our heart rate, even our brain waves adjust to those around us. This phenomenon, known as interpersonal resonance, could extend deeper than waking life. When billions sleep under the same gravitational rhythm, bathed in the same geomagnetic field, perhaps our dreaming minds subtly align, resonating within the frequencies of Earth itself. The human brain emits measurable electromagnetic waves, gentle, rhythmic patterns that oscillate between 1 and 40 cycles per second. The Earth also vibrates, with its own Schumann resonances, electromagnetic pulses circling the planet's atmosphere. Some theorists believe that our dreams may be influenced by these natural frequencies, syncing the collective rhythm of life in ways we barely perceive. Whether through quantum entanglement or neuroelectric resonance, the idea is the same. Perhaps consciousness is not yours or mine, but ours, a shared field expressing itself through individual perspectives. In dreams, this shared nature becomes more visible. Here the ego, the sense of I, fades and boundaries dissolve. We become fluid, shape-shifting, merging with people, places, and times that are not our own. We might inhabit another person's body, witness another era, or feel emotions we've never consciously experienced. It's as if the mind, freed from identity, flows through the universal tapestry of awareness, the same field that binds every living thing. Ancient traditions recognized this long before science tried to explain it. In Hindu philosophy, this universal consciousness is called Brahman, the infinite reality from which all minds arise, like sparks from a flame. In Taoism, it's the Tao, the eternal flow that connects all forms of existence. The Aboriginal people of Australia spoke of the dream time, a timeless dimension where all beings and events are interconnected. Even in modern physics, the idea persists. At the quantum level, particles do not exist in isolation. They are entangled, influencing each other instantaneously across vast distances. Could dreams, then, be consciousness exploring its own entanglement, the human mind remembering that it was never truly separate? When you dream of a loved one, it may not simply be imagination. It may be the emotional resonance of connection, echoing through the subconscious field. When you dream of events yet to unfold, it may be your mind touching the edges of the timeless, where past, present, and future coexist. We don't yet have the instruments to measure such subtle interactions, but many great thinkers, from Einstein to Schrödinger, admitted that consciousness might play a more fundamental role in reality than we realize. Perhaps what we call the individual mind is like a drop in a vast sea, unique in shape, but inseparable from the water that surrounds it. In deep sleep and dream, the boundaries between drops blur. The ocean reclaims its unity. And when we awaken, we carry fragments of that unity with us, small glimmers of the whole, expressed as insight, intuition, or inspiration. It's why many artists, scientists, and philosophers throughout history have said their greatest ideas came in dreams, as if the mind, in its nightly wandering, touched something greater and brought back a piece of it. Dreams connect us not just to ourselves, but to each other through shared symbols, shared emotion, and shared humanity. Every night, billions of minds light up in the dark, weaving unseen threads through the fabric of consciousness. We may dream alone, but we dream within one vast consciousness, one collective field of awareness that spans all living things. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, imagine this. Your mind, like a ripple on an infinite sea, expands and merges with countless others. Each dream you dream is part of the great conversation of the cosmos, the universe thinking through you, through me, through everyone together. And when morning comes and you open your eyes, remember, the separation was always an illusion. The dream continues, only in another form. Because consciousness was never confined to one brain. It was always the ocean, infinite, aware, and beautifully connected. Dreams across dimensions. Are we tapping into parallel realities? Every night, as we close our eyes and drift beyond the threshold of wakefulness, something extraordinary happens. We enter a world unbound by the laws of ordinary reality, a realm where time bends, gravity loosens, and logic melts into waves of pure imagination. For centuries, human beings have asked a haunting question. Are dreams merely creations of the brain or portals to something beyond? In this hour, we explore an idea that sits at the crossroads of neuroscience and quantum possibility, that dreams may not only reflect our minds, but may also connect us to other realities. Let us begin with what we know. When we dream, the brain constructs immersive virtual worlds inside the mind. Neuroscience calls this internal simulation, a complex act where billions of neurons fire in rhythmic patterns, creating lifelike landscapes, people, sensations, and emotions. But what's fascinating is that, inside a dream, it all feels real. We walk through cities that don't exist. We meet people who seem alive, sentient, familiar, yet entirely creations of memory and imagination. For the dreamer, that world is as real as waking life. This raises a deep question. If the brain can simulate a universe so convincing, how do we know the waking world isn't a similar projection? A grander, more consistent dream constructed by consciousness itself. Quantum physics adds to the mystery. At the smallest scales of existence, particles do not have fixed positions or states until they are observed. Reality, it seems, is fluid, a wave of probabilities that solidifies into form only through interaction with awareness. Some researchers and philosophers have suggested that consciousness might not simply emerge from matter, it might shape matter. And if consciousness is a fundamental field existing beyond the brain, then dreams could be moments when our individual awareness reconnects with that wider sea of reality. In that case, dreams might not be fiction. They might be visits to alternate versions of events, parallel dimensions of self, or symbolic layers of the universe where possibilities unfold like branches of an infinite tree. Consider déjà vu, the eerie feeling of having lived a moment before. Could it be that we sometimes dream about possible futures, glimpsing a path our waking mind later walks? Studies of precognitive dreams remain controversial, yet there are thousands of reported cases across cultures and time, people dreaming of specific events that later occur. Science cannot yet explain this phenomenon, but it continues to appear in data, hinting that the boundaries of dreaming may stretch farther than we currently understand. Now, imagine consciousness as a vast, multidimensional network, each mind a node connected by invisible threads of information. In waking life, we tune to one frequency, the shared reality of our physical world. But in dreams, the tuner shifts. The brain's sensory input quiets, and its internal generator takes over, opening access to layers of mind that may resonate with other frequencies of existence. If reality truly exists as overlapping fields of information, perhaps dreams allow consciousness to sample other configurations of that field. This idea, though speculative, aligns with certain interpretations of quantum theory, especially the many worlds hypothesis. According to this model, every possible outcome of every event exists in a branching multiverse. At each moment, reality splits into countless parallel versions, infinite, coexisting, and unseen. If the brain, during dreaming, loses its normal filters, could consciousness, freed from sensory constraints, momentarily perceive these parallel worlds? Perhaps when you dream of another life, another city, another version of yourself, it isn't imagination but resonance. A brief alignment with another you, living in another strand of the cosmic web. In dreams, boundaries blur, between self and other, between time and possibility. You might be a child again, or someone else entirely. You might experience realities that feel emotionally ancient, as if they belong to someone else's memory. Yet every image, every feeling, arises within your awareness. If consciousness is interconnected, part of one universal field, then every dream could be a window into the shared fabric of existence. Ancient cultures seem to intuit this truth long before modern physics. The Australian Aboriginal peoples spoke of the dream time, a realm beyond time where creation itself unfolds, and where ancestors and spirits still reside. In Tibetan Buddhism, dream yoga teaches that the dream world is not illusion, but another plane of awareness, a training ground for awakening. Even modern psychology, through Carl Jung, recognized the dream as a portal to the collective unconscious, a vast reservoir of shared symbols and archetypes connecting all minds. Perhaps science and spirituality are describing the same phenomenon with different languages. Where physicists speak of quantum fields, mystics speak of cosmic mind. Where neuroscience describes neural networks, ancient teachings describe the web of being. Dreams, then, may be the bridge, the place where inner and outer reality intertwine. Let us consider what happens in lucid dreaming. When you realize you are dreaming, the brain activates the prefrontal cortex, the same area responsible for self-awareness in waking life. In that moment, the dreamer becomes conscious within the dream. Here, the laws of physics seem to obey not external constraints, but intention. You can fly, shape the world, speak to figures that reflect your own subconscious wisdom. If the mind can manifest entire realities within the dream, what does that say about the creative potential of consciousness itself? Some quantum thinkers propose that reality is a participatory process, that the universe does not exist as a fixed stage, but as an unfolding event co-created by observation. If this is true, then dreaming could be consciousness rehearsing creation, exploring possibilities, refining emotional and energetic patterns that influence waking life. Your dreams may not be separate from reality at all. They may be the laboratory of the soul, where your deeper self experiments with potential versions of existence. And when you awaken, the dream collapses like a quantum wave, leaving behind subtle shifts in your energy, insights, or inspiration that ripple through your waking world. Even forgotten dreams might leave traces, adjusting the frequency of thought, emotion, and perception. What if the act of dreaming is how consciousness evolves, through countless nightly journeys across the dimensions of possibility? Perhaps the strangeness of dreams, the distortions, the symbolism, the time loops, are glimpses of higher dimensional logic trying to speak through the limitations of a human brain. Perhaps in dream, the universe is speaking to itself through you. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, consider this. What if the worlds you visit are real, not physically, but energetically? What if each dream connects you with an aspect of the cosmic whole, another note in the infinite song of consciousness? The next time you awaken from a dream that feels more vivid than life, do not dismiss it. You may have touched another thread of existence, felt the vibration of another self, another story. For in the grand tapestry of being, every dream is a ripple of the same ocean, one consciousness, exploring itself through infinite reflections. Dreams remind us that reality is far more fluid, mysterious, and interconnected than we imagine. Whether they are neural simulations or glimpses across dimensions, they reveal one profound truth. Consciousness is vast, and in the silence of sleep, it travels farther than we can ever see. Every night when you drift into sleep, your mind begins its quiet transformation. The noise of the world fades, the boundaries of time soften, and the great machinery of consciousness turns inward. This is the nightly symphony, the endless rhythm between waking and dreaming, between the known and the mysterious. We have traveled far in this exploration, through the landscapes of REM sleep, the strange logic of nightmares, the puzzles of memory, and the shimmering fields of imagination. Now, in this final hour, we return to the central question. Why does your brain create strange dreams every night? Science tells us that dreams are more than illusions. They are the mind's hidden dialogue with itself, a biological, psychological, and even existential process. When you dream, your brain is not resting. It is reorganizing, healing, testing, creating. In the laboratory of the sleeping mind, neurons fire in patterns that help stabilize memory, regulate emotion, and prepare the brain for another day of consciousness. The vivid stories, the bizarre plots, the impossible transformations, all are part of the mind's deep housekeeping. Your brain dreams to survive, but it also dreams to evolve. Let us look closely, scientifically, at this grand nightly process. During REM sleep, your brain activates a delicate balance of chemistry. Acetylcholine surges, norepinephrine drops, serotonin fluctuates. This neurochemical cocktail unlocks creativity, frees emotional expression, and disconnects the rational filters of the prefrontal cortex. In this state, the mind can safely reprocess fear, desire, and memory, mixing fragments into new patterns of meaning. Dreams, in essence, are emotional simulations. They allow the brain to test possible futures, rehearse responses, and integrate unresolved feelings. When you face danger in a nightmare, your amygdala, the center of emotion, is recalibrating, preparing you for stress in waking life. When you dream of love, flight, or wonder, your brain is exploring joy and freedom in pure, consequence-free form. It's as if every night the brain runs an experiment. What happens if? What if this emotion meets that memory? What if we face our fear without running? What if we create a world entirely new? Dreams are your brain's internal theater, an endless film directed by the subconscious, with you as both actor and audience. Each dream is a message, but not always a literal one. It speaks in symbols, in metaphors and emotion. A storm might represent change. A falling building might reflect an ending. A new light might signal transformation. The meaning is not in the story, but in the feeling it leaves behind. Some neuroscientists argue that dreams have no inherent purpose, that they are the random byproducts of a busy brain. But even randomness has meaning to the mind that interprets it. When you wake and remember a fragment, an image, a sound, a sense of awe, you are giving shape to chaos. You are turning noise into narrative, chance into insight. And that is what consciousness does best. It makes sense of mystery. Yet there is another layer, one that reaches beyond biology. Because in dreams, we encounter something more than neurons. We encounter ourselves, the unfiltered, timeless awareness beneath thought. Dreaming dissolves the ego's boundaries, reminding us that consciousness is not a single voice, but a vast, interconnected choir. Perhaps that is why dreams feel both deeply personal and strangely universal. They echo the same emotions across every culture and age: fear, love, loss, flight, creation. They remind us that all human minds share a common architecture, a shared code written in imagery and feeling. In this way, dreams unite us. They are proof that every brain, every mind, is part of the same mysterious project called life. And perhaps that's the true wonder. That evolution didn't just give us brains to think, but minds that dream. Dreaming may be nature's way of keeping consciousness flexible, a space where the impossible can be imagined before it is made real. A rehearsal for creativity, empathy, and innovation. A nightly reminder that reality is not as rigid as it seems. When we dream, we remember that the laws of the day are not absolute. We can fly. We can time travel. We can speak to those we've lost and touch the edges of infinity. And though these experiences fade upon waking, something of their magic remains. Dreaming keeps the human spirit alive, the capacity to wonder, to create, to believe in the unseen. In the end, the question, why do we dream, may not have a single answer. Dreams are biology and emotion and memory, but they are also poetry, energy, and mystery. They are the bridge between matter and mind, between the brain and the universe that shaped it. So when you lie down tonight and the world grows quiet, know that something ancient and beautiful is about to happen. Your body will rest. Your consciousness will loosen. And the orchestra of your neurons will begin to play the ancient song of dreaming. A song sung by every mind that ever lived. A song that began when life itself first learned to sleep. And as you drift through those shifting landscapes, the strange cities, the luminous skies, the faces that blur between memory and imagination, remember this: you are not just witnessing the dream. You are the dreamer and the dream. You are the universe exploring its own depths through the lens of your mind. Every dream, no matter how strange, is a small act of creation. A pulse of life. A reminder that consciousness never truly sleeps, and when morning comes and light returns, you will awaken again, carrying fragments of the infinite night within you. Pieces of wonder, traces of mystery, echoes of the cosmos. That is why your brain creates strange dreams every night, because the universe is still dreaming through you.